Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. This is the Dig Out edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and InForum.com on a Blizzard Wednesday. It has come through here. It is not nice out. It may look it. Even if you look outside our windows here, right next to our studio, I mean, the sun's out here, but it's not great. Roads are okay around here in the metro, but obviously as you get outside the city limits, it gets scary with still everything closed down on 29 and 94. I live in South Moorhead, and seeing that's the last of the barrier there where you can't go any further. It's pretty odd to see every car come off the interstate, and then beyond that, it's like something you see out of The Last of Us right now. It's just nothing. And let everybody do what they need to do. Don't be driving around any of the barriers, because I can't believe people do that. I hear that happen. It just sounds crazy to me. So let's let the plows get out there, do what they can, and hopefully we're up and running here in the not-too-distant future. It seems like the wind is going to go way down here as the day goes on, which is good news, and we'll be able to get back to somewhat normal here in the not-too-distant future. It has affected, obviously, school around the area. Moorhead, DGF, or e-learning days. Fargo is closed. West Fargo, I believe, as well. The Moorhead deal is a big deal because, as we previewed yesterday, the section girls championship game supposed to be played up in Thief River between Moorhead and Roseau will not happen today for obvious reasons. That has now been moved to tomorrow night. So the 8AA hockey championship game between Moorhead and Roseau will now be played tomorrow up in Thief River Falls. So a day later, but makes a ton of sense with especially in open areas. I can't even imagine. It's got to be scary. Just even last night, going out to take the dog out and it was a brief walk at around 8:30 last night. You couldn't look up, at least in South Moorhead. It was hitting you right in the face. And if you saw our buddy Matt Henson's live shot last night during the 10 o'clock news, you got a good sense of how nasty it was out there in West Fargo. So that's the latest there on sporting events around. Obviously, with it being a Wednesday, nothing really is scheduled anyway. So that's the only real game that's affected in our area with everything. And there were plenty of either cancellations or postponements or games that were moved up. The game that we had on the air yesterday, the Moorhead-Roseau boys game, was moved up to a 3:45 start to allow for Roseau to get back home without any issues there, which I believe that was the case. We had a bunch of basketball games that were moved around. So things were adjusted as best they could be as we're in the home stretch here. Their athletic directors are looking at schedules like we don't have any open dates here. We're in the postseason for EDC hockey right now, for boys hockey in North Dakota. We've got, a week left of regular season dates left for boys basketball in the state and girls basketball. We're into the postseason in Class B girls basketball, so there's little to no wiggle room here. And we've been down this road, it seems like, the last couple of winters. Last year, remember, the EDC hockey tournament, we couldn't get it finished. They played the opening round, and then the semifinals got moved around. I mean, we were playing state qualifier games, we thought, on a Sunday, and one on a Monday. It was just a dumpster fire of trying to get the state hockey or the EDC hockey tournament done before the state hockey tournament began in Fargo last year. So you could just set your watch to it. region basketball tournaments were all discombobulated because we had some bad February weather. Hopefully we don't run into that again, that this is the last of it. But that's all it has to do with the sports scheduling for today. Lots to get to today. We'll recap what happened with EDC hockey here in just a moment. The Vikings are in the news again, which we'll chat about. There's a new mock draft out today, which I'm sure seems fitting as the Super Bowl is over. I told you that the news of the NFL never stops, and this is a perfect reason why, when you can throw out a mock draft like that, which will get plenty of people, including us, to chat about. And we'll get set for the state wrestling tournament, which begins tomorrow up at the Fargo Dome, one of my all-time favorite events. Gets started tomorrow, the 3-day tournament, which culminates with the dual championships on Saturday. Should be another great year for that. We'll preview that coming up later on in the show. We mentioned yesterday before we left on what to watch for 3 games that we normally highlight. If one of them clicks is a really good game, that's a winner. We had 2 last night that were dynamic. We pick one to show you because none of our local teams played last night. Wild were off. Wolves were off last night. But if you watch the Creighton and Providence game, which we told you to check out on Fox Sports 1 in the quote-unquote Big East, it's not the Big East to me, and I'm sure for many my age, but it was a game with 2 ranked opponents that came down to the bitter end, and I mean not even regulation, not even overtime. It went double overtime last night in Providence to decide a winner. Former Bison head coach Greg McDermott, of course, leading Creighton. The game tied at 71. Late in the second half, of course, Creighton has our old friend Baylor Shireman leading the way for them. Ryan Nemhard scores to make it 73-71 Blue Jays. Bryce Hopkins answers back for Providence to tie the game at 73 with under a minute to go. Now, 8 seconds left. Creighton with the ball here to try to get a shot at the game winner. The lob there to Arthur Kaluma, but he's just short. And that means we go to overtime. This was fantastic. Watch this. This is the start overtime. The opening tap goes right. Devin Carter swoops in and dunks it home and gives Providence an early 75-73 lead. Now 79-76. Nebar will drive to the basket and score. He was great last night for Creighton. That makes it a 1-point game at 79-78. Now tied at 84. Another chance here for Providence to win the game. 3 seconds left on the shot clock, but nobody's home. It's a shot clock violation, and the game will go, I'm going to spoil it for you, a double overtime here because Creighton doesn't get a winner here. Nebar gets open down low, but it's off the mark, and we go to double overtime, tied at 84. Providence then got a little bit of mojo going in the second extra session. The drive and hoop here from Carter, who had the dunk to start overtime and won, makes it 87-84. Noah Locke will get open, drives and scores. Providence up 5. Scene, by the way, is fantastic. I mean, this is obviously a basketball school. It was packed, loud, energetic last night. Here, this the ceiling basket for the Friars from a Bryce Hopkins dunk. Providence beats Creighton 94-86 is the final. Our guy Shireman goes for 12 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds in the game for Creighton, who drops to 17-9. And remember, there were talks of Creighton being a Final Four team here in 2023. That may still happen, but they're going to have their work cut out for them in the Big East. Providence gets to 19-7, 11-4 in the Big East. Marquette is the top team in the Big East right now, a half game ahead of Xavier. I'm shaking my head as I'm looking at the teams in the Big East right now. I watched that documentary the other night. It just reminded me of how great it used to be, and then football had to go and ruin everything. I say that tongue-in-cheek, but that's exactly what happened with that league. Because of the old standing teams that are still there, it's Providence, Seton Hall, UConn, Villanova, St. John's, Georgetown. And Georgetown is god-awful at 1-15. They're bad. They finally won a conference game for the first time in like 3 years just a few weeks ago. Odd times there. Fun game to watch, though, last night. McDermott's team will be interesting. we'll see what happens when we get to March and the NCAA tournament. Speaking of tournament play, we talked about it off the top of the show. There were some games played last night. The EDC hockey tournament began in earnest with the quarterfinals at home sites. Everybody advancing on to Purple Arena on Friday for the loser-out games and the EDC semifinals. One game went to double overtime as well. Grand Forks Central and Fargo Davies played a barn burner last night up at Purple Arena. This is the 3 against the 6 seed in this matchup, where Central scored early. Davies responded to tie the game up at 2. It would stay that way through overtime, double overtime. That's the game winner for Central to send them through into the EDC semifinals as they beat Davies 3-2 was the final. They're going to get South Shanley in the semis. The Bruins routed West Fargo 7-0. Red River squeaked by Devils Lake 16-1. And North shut out Cheyenne 1-rip in an entertaining game at the Coliseum last night. So there you see the semifinals, which we played Friday evening in Grand Forks. Red River against North, Central against South. The loser-out games will be played Friday afternoon and late morning. Devils Lake, Cheyenne, West Fargo, and Davies are the games that come up on Friday. The winners of those games have their season stay alive. The losers have their season ended. So, with the reminder that the state hockey tournament begins a week from tomorrow in Grand Forks. The boys' state hockey tournament. Again, I have to remind myself on that because they are not linked together anymore with the girls having their own tournament in Minot in a couple weeks, the same week of the girls' Class B. Remember, this is the first of a 2-year experimentation window, maybe the best way to say it, where the girls will have their own separate tournament the following weekend. I'll be interested to see how this works. Minot has been dying to get a chance to host at the Mesa Arena, which is a beautiful rink. I'm interested to see how this works. You know, in lieu of the conversation we're dominating with 3-class basketball, to have 2 separate tournaments for hockey, I'll just tell you here, next year, if they keep this again in 2024, you're going to have 3 state tournaments happening in 1 weekend. We're already complaining about 2, and I say we in terms of fans. I think some ADs and coaches aren't thrilled about it, that it's coming down the pipe. Well, the first weekend in March in 2024, you could have 3 separate events. Heck, you could have 4 with gymnastics going at the same time. And I think everybody knows who watches or listens to my show how I feel about when we have 6 tournaments happening at the same time in the spring. The winter is starting to creep up on that with a potential of 4. And I don't know about exposure or coverage. I think the girls believe that there might be more there as opposed to what they get right now. I will tell you, for our sake, for what we're going to be doing, the games will be on WDAY Extra, the quarterfinal games in a couple weeks, with the semifinals on Extra. The championship game will be on ABC on WDAY, leading into the girls' Class B championship game 2 weeks from now. Will that be better? I will tell you right now, the quarterfinal games have not been on television, so there's a bonus. That's a win for them. The semifinals have been. Last year, we streamed the semifinals. The year before that, the COVID year, they were on TV because they split it up. They played the girls' semis on a Friday afternoon. We did that with the boys' semis on Friday night. So I'll be interested to see the feedback on this and where they go from here. Packed show here for you today on this Wednesday hump day. Might be a blizzard outside, but not stopping us from a busy show. Our friend and colleague Drew Trafton will be by here in just a few minutes in his usual Wednesday time slot now as we are fully into the NFL offseason and with spring training right around the corner. His beloved Mariners, which made the postseason last year for the first time in 20-some-odd years. ESPN has graded everybody's offseason, so we'll dive into that coming up in just a few minutes. At 9:35, you'll meet North Dakota State's new wide receivers coach. Steve Crutchley will join us. Interview I did with him late last week. Hopefully that'll work if my computer works. It's coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, David Richman will be by in his usual 10 a.m. time slot for the Bison hit the road for Kansas City. Huge weekend here. It's the last road weekend of the season for the Bison. It's Kansas City and Oral Roberts. And I'll tell you right now, Dave would completely disagree with me. Maybe he wouldn't. You're going to put all your eggs in the Kansas City basket. You win that game tomorrow night, you got a heck of a chance to be the 3 seed at the Summit League tournament. At least you put yourself in position. Because if you lose tomorrow night, and the Bison have lost here, 3 of their last 4? No, 3 games in a row to Kansas City because they got swept last year and they lost the opener this year. If you lose to Kansas City, you're not going to win at Oral Roberts. You roll the ball out, I know you see what happens, but nobody's beating Oral Roberts, especially in Tulsa. I don't believe so. We'll discuss that coming up at 10 o'clock. Not the part about not beating Oral Roberts, but putting everything in your basket to try to beat Kansas City tomorrow night. And at 10:35, we'll welcome back Jeff Welsh, Grand Forks Central head wrestling coach. Good dude who loves the sport. Really got girls wrestling going to get it sanctioned. It'll be the second year of the state championships handing out on the girls' side. We'll preview the state wrestling tournament with Jeff coming up at 10:35, including the second year of the new format of how they've changed this up where the individuals go Thursday, Friday instead of Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now it just goes Thursday, Friday. We'll discuss that coming up at 10:35. That and much more here between now and 10:57. We'll take a break. Hot Mic is off and rolling. We're back after this on WDAY Extra at InForum.com.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right, I got an email in here. I'm going to read this because I don't get a ton of these.
First time emailer, long time listener.
Evidently,
sort of
it says, getting away from all the talk from the Super Bowl and the 3-tier high school basketball, I just want to say I enjoy watching your show every day. I normally have to record it because I have to work. The biggest days I love watching is when you have Dave Richman and Jory Collins. But the biggest highlight is Friday when you have your dad on. So keep up the good work. I appreciate that. I know right next to that.
That's my favorite segment of the week, too, is when you have your dad on.
My dad right now is watching my niece, and my niece is a huge Drew Trafton fan. She's 2 years old and says, Drew, and points at it. So right now, you can point at Sophie and wave hi.
Hi, Sophie.
Oh, there you go.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for being a fan.
My dad told me that.
Well, that's incredible.
Last week. By the way, my dad right now is in South Florida. He's getting ready for the Daytona 500.
Yeah, that's a thing for him. He goes every year, right?
He sent me a photo. He sent my wife, actually, a photo to show Jack of he was checking out alligators yesterday.
Oh, yeah. So a couple last month I went down to Florida.
Yes,
I was in Southwest Florida. In the Naples area, and we went on an Everglades tour, and we saw alligators up close and personal. we got a couple of them. One of them that I remember comes around often. His name is Psycho. 13-foot gator.
Name. Oh God!
It was incredible though. It's a really interesting ecosystem down there, and it's just it's kind of a. It's just different, it just feels like a different world.
Different deal. So yesterday, I don't know if you saw our friend and colleague Mike McFeely. I got him going on an old man rant about what baseball is doing.
Oh, is
they're changing everything. We didn't even get into the bases. I don't know if he knows that.
The shift.
That might throw him over the edge. The bases are bigger.
AAA robot umpires, all of this.
But I did read ESPN graded everybody's offseason, all 30 teams. Surprisingly, maybe not so to people on the outside, they gave the Mets an A, which, by the way, they should. Well, they spent $1 billion. You better. If you don't win 102 games this season, the season's is lost.
You throw enough at the wall, something's going to stick.
They gave the Twins a B+.
Okay.
I was stunned at that because up until I don't know, January 10th, they hadn't done anything.
So are the parameters for this, like, you just look at everything in a vacuum and not, like, because I can see that. If you look at just the results of it, right? If you just, like, put the results on the board without knowing all of the drama that, went on with Correa and all of that, it's like, okay, I could see a B+.
So this is what they said. there is no grading on a curve here. If the Padres can run one of the highest payrolls in the sport, then your local small market owner can afford to spend a little bit more, which, by the way, hello, Minnesota Twins, which I know they did, but they're getting still. I think they're still getting Correa at a discount because the Giants and the Mets were more than willing to pay him $300 and some odd million if they weren't freaked out that his ankle might fall apart in 4 to 5 years. So the Twins got a B+ for their moves. I like the Arise trade. I think that will bear itself out, especially with the prospect wise, as they get to go forward. Your Seattle Mariners got a B-.
Okay.
The Mariners had a conservative, if predictable, offseason, one that left most Mariner fans a little frustrated with the reluctance to go after one of the big-ticket free agents. Is that accurate?
I would say so, yeah. And they were also really upfront. Like, Jerry DiPoto, the vice president of baseball operations, always very transparent, and they will tell you what they're going to do. Yeah. And I think that's a little bit on the fans, because then the fans' expectations are totally different, than what the front offices is. And they'll tell us, like, we're not going to go after one of those guys because we've got our shortstop in house. We've got, and they'll tell you how they're going to approach it, and they always deliver on that.
So they added Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah, that's huge.
I like him.
Colton Wong, I think, is a really big ad that they're not really like hanging their hat on. And I think that could be big because he replaced Adam Frazier, in that system. And I think that's a huge upgrade.
Tommy La Stella, A.J. Pollock they added.
A.J. Pollock was a big ad, too.
They lost your buddy Mitch Haniger.
Yeah.
I know you're sad about that. Local guy Eric Swanson, who grew up in Fargo. You mentioned Frazier. Jesse Winker, how do we feel about him moving on?
Okay, I think there's some interesting scuttlebutt in the offseason about he didn't necessarily match that culture in the locker room that they were building, and he didn't hit, which was tough because I remember going into last season thinking because they got him and Eugenio Suarez. And everybody thought that Suarez was the sweetener in that deal, and it really turned out to be opposite, where Suarez was like, he was carrying some serious water on that team, and Winker ended up being kind of the odd man out in a lot of ways. And so I think it's beneficial for both sides that he moves on and that they got something for him.
So he went to Eric's team. By the way, Benel, the Brewers got a C. Is that accurate for what your team did in the offseason here?
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
They didn't really help the bullpen, which they needed to for Devin Williams. But I do like the trade with Seattle. Colton Wong is actually he's a decent player, but he wasn't great, and he's not going to fit in Milwaukee long term.
Yeah. And from the Mariners standpoint, I don't think they're asking him to be like he's kind of like a utility pickup for them. So I think it did work out. Yeah, I think both sides got benefited from that.
It's just exciting to talk about. The team players have already started reporting. The Twins officially report tomorrow. Games are not that far away. So on a day we got a blizzard outside.
Right.
I'm okay. Let's go. Sign me up.
The eternal hope of spring, which is nice. And that for some reason it always kind of sneaks up on me because I think I'm just so laser focused on the NFL, the Super Bowl. There is no off season for the NFL anymore.
Especially how late we go now. And I'm convinced once they go to 18 games that we're next Monday, which is President's Day, right? Which is a day off for nearly everybody. The NFL's going to monopolize that Sunday for Super Bowl Sunday because how many people do you know take the following day off after the Super Bowl?
Yeah, and everybody's always been talking about that.
It's already there. It's a federal holiday. Then all right, well, why not?
Yeah,
and then we're talking late February for the season to go to.
Right? Yeah.
College basketball's thinking, well, maybe we should go. I don't know if they would ever leave March, but if they want to get away from the NFL and have somebody enjoy their regular season,
push a little bit deeper into spring.
Speaking of that, so we got a Todd McShay mock out. Have you looked at this?
I haven't looked. I saw it came out
today.
Yeah, I saw
this morning. He's got the Colts trading with the Bears for the number 1 pick, and the Colts taking Bryce Young. Obviously, the Colts hired Shane Steichen, the Eagles offensive coordinator, as the new head football coach there. So the Jeff Saturday experiment went as what we thought it would. When you give up the greatest comeback in the history, or the biggest lead in the history of the NFL, it's probably not a good sign you're going to keep that job.
Yeah, you're not long for that world.
He's got C.J. Stroud, second, the quarterback of Ohio State, to the Texans.
Okay.
I thought the Texans were in on Davis Mills, but, I mean, if you have a guy like Stroud sitting there, you have to go
Yeah.
If anything that was proven from Sunday is that you need a dynamic, I don't want to say generational, but you need a dynamic player at the quarterback spot.
Yeah,
or you have no chance.
That's what the modern NFL certainly demands. Yeah, absolutely.
Or you need that, or a very good quarterback and an amazing defense.
Well, I mean, look no further than the San Francisco 49ers, and what they've been doing. I mean, they've been consistently very, very good over the last 10 years, but their shortcoming, as many people, I mean, they've always had a crazy dynamic defense. But their shortcoming and weapons on offense, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Crabtree. I mean, just go way, way back. I mean, you can just stack them up. The quarterback has been where they've been. They've had solid play, but they've needed, Swiss Army knife of options to get it done and to get to that NFC title game, but they haven't pushed beyond that point.
So the Seahawks, he has at 5 taking Tyree Wilson, defensive end from Texas Tech.
Okay.
McShay writes, I expect Seattle to re-sign or franchise Geno Smith, so quarterback shouldn't be atop its draft day needs.
No.
But Poona Ford is a free agent. Nwosu and Darrell Taylor are under contract for only one more season.
Yes.
So the defensive line could be a major focus. The Seahawks finished 7th in sacks, but their pass rush win rate, that's a great stat, was 28th. Pressure rate, 21st, were lackluster. Wilson wins with power, totaling 14 sacks over the past 2 seasons in Lubbock.
I would love that. I mean, and I fully, if somehow Jalen Carter or Will Anderson Jr. fall down the board because teams move up and the Seahawks are
you
at
that
5.
Lucky? Come on.
Yeah, that would be like, yes, please sign me up. And even with Wilson, I think too, their need is, with those top 4 picks that they have 4 picks in the top 38.
Yeah.
And I fully anticipate they'll trade back at some point to garner, gather more picks. But I think if you were to spend those 4 picks, 3 have to be defensive focused and 2 have to be on edge and DT. Have to be.
I want to one other thing here before we let you go, because yesterday the Vikings, ESPN actually broke the story, and then the Vikings, of course, confirmed that Dalvin Cook had shoulder surgery on his left shoulder. That's something that's been bugging him since 2019. Came dislocated, actually, in the game against the Lions. This game here, where he fumbled in a game, frankly, the Vikings should have lost, would have many that Minnesota should have lost this season. My question is, who's Dalvin Cook playing for in 2023? I don't believe it's for the Minnesota Vikings. With the way that, also another lesson that you saw from those 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl, you can win by running back by committee.
Yeah.
Paying a guy $18 million to be your stud running back is not the way to win in the NFL right now.
Right. And I mean, even look at the positional value in the draft. I mean, it's almost considered taboo to draft a running back in the first 2 rounds now. I mean, you're really finding those nuggets in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. And there are just a treasure trove of backs, that are on short contracts that get moved around. So I don't know what his trade value is. That being said, that's a big question mark. It's
a good it's a good point on that. That might just be an outright release.
Yeah.
The Vikes are going to have some really, really hard decisions to make.
Yeah.
This is one of them. Adam Thielen's another.
Yes.
The amount of money that each of those guys are occupying right now, I mean,
you have to make those tough decisions.
Dalvin's base salary right now is $10.4 million. His dead cap would be over $6 million.
So they could save 4 by cutting him.
Yep.
And you can sign a lot with 4. I mean, you could get a middle of the road, defensive lineman.
His cap hit is $14 million.
Bye-bye. You could probably sign 2 more running backs with that $4 million. Guys who can soak up those carries.
Thielen's cap hit is nearly 20.
Yeah,
there's
huge.
no way Adam is back at that rate. If he wants to take less money, which I don't know if he would, you have to do that. The top 2 offensive guys they have to re-sign. That's Justin Jefferson, and my guy is T.J. Hawkinson. Hawkinson became their stud second receiver.
Yeah,
I thought so with the last half of the season.
Yeah, I just don't know if you can use him like that reliably. He had some key drops too. I mean, he really did. And I like
Although
Hawkinson.
The playoff game, he was pretty good.
He was really
Giants
good in
could
the
not
playoff
stop
game.
him.
Yeah, he was one of those bright spots in the playoff game, and that's why they traded for him, right? That's why they traded Detroit,
and that's why for Viking fans that freak out and say, "Well, they only have 4 picks," I would argue, well, actually they have 5. One of them is T.J. Hawkinson.
Yeah,
so you take that, right?
And really, in that system, that Kevin O'Connell, that Sean McVay tree system, you need 2 absolutely rock solid tight ends. One has to be a pass blocker, one has to be a run blocker, but they both have to play dynamic roles in the offense, if I understand that structure correctly. And so, I mean, Hawkinson's really important. Justin Jefferson, though, like you said, I mean,
give him whatever he wants.
His value is almost incalculable.
Yeah, give him whatever he wants.
We saw that with the NFL honors, right? Like, I mean, where did that come from? I was hoping that people would see his value as Offensive Player of the Year. I had no expectation he was going to win that award. And to see that many people vote for him, like, it's like that just shows you, like, there is very clear value in what he does.
I'll just say this, because you and I talked about it Friday, and we got to go, that the New York Football Jets won the Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year.
They sure did.
Joe Douglas knocked it out of the park with this draft. First round was awesome. Now they need a quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know who that's going to be, though. Everybody keeps pointing to me Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet. The Jets have asked.
Yeah,
I mean,
the quarterback carousel here is going to be
Derek Carr's now out there, right? He was released yesterday, so.
But I mean, like, where's that first domino? Because I don't think Derek Carr's going to be in a hurry to sign anywhere. I don't think even Geno Smith, who's had very intense conversations with the Seahawks,
right?
I don't think he's in a hurry to sign anything. I don't think the Seahawks are in a hurry to sign him.
Everybody has to wait for Rodgers.
Yeah,
after that, then everybody else can move.
But if somebody were to move in and say, "Well, I'm gonna," like, if a team was aggressive and they're like, "Are we going to wait to see where is Aaron Rodgers that valuable at this point in his career?" Where you're going to wait on the chance of getting him?
I would not.
Because there's a huge chance that you don't get him if you're the Jets. So, like, who's the next best option out there? Like, could that dictate the market? Could that force Aaron Rodgers' hand a little bit?
Is Derek Carr? Then I don't know.
And what's, like, the whole NFC South needs a quarterback, right?
Right.
The whole. What are the Ravens doing with Lamar Jackson?
Right.
Like that's a huge thing too, because the Jets could be a player there too.
If I am running the show and I'm Robert Saleh, I go call Jimmy Garoppolo and say, "Hey, we got an unreal defense. You got a stud running back that's coming back.
Yeah.
We got an offensive line we think is pretty good. And by the way, we got 2 wide receivers we think are pretty darn good.
Well, okay.
You want to come here?
Yeah, I mean,
and a tight end that's pretty good
and
too.
We just talked about how great San Francisco is. I know you got to go, but take the nameplates off of those 2 teams. Do an anonymous side by side.
Right, I mean,
the Jets and the Niners look kind of similar.
Pretty similar. They don't have the McCaffrey, although I really like Breece Hall.
Yeah.
No one has Kittle, but the Jets' defense. I'm telling you, I would go get Garoppolo. That's because I have infatuated Jimmy G since his college days, as you well know, at Eastern Illinois. I would go do that.
He came within, one completion of winning a Super Bowl for that team. He
came within having a defense of at least moving out of the FCS quarterfinals when they lost, when Terrence West ran for 5,000 yards against them in the 2013 postseason.
Good old Towson.
Our guy Terrence West, right? Good old Towson with their 8 fans that showed up in Frisco that year. Great to see you, man. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Spring training,
Thanks,
that's
Sophie.
not far away.
Great to meet you, Sophie.
There we go. Your number 1 fan. Drew Trafton joining us here each and every Wednesday. We'll take a break. We come back. You'll meet NDSU's new wide receiver coach, Steve Crutchley. Comes this way via of UND. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Welcome back, everybody, on a Wednesday morning. Slow travels out there, everybody. Interstates are still closed, last I saw. We'll update that once we hear any more, but slow travel out there here on this Wednesday morning. David Richman coming up, North Dakota State men's basketball coach at 10 o'clock. Bison heading to Kansas City for a big game tomorrow night. We had a chance last week, and we didn't get time to visit with new NDSU wide receivers coach Steve Crutchley, young guy that comes from University of North Dakota. Had a couple other stops in the FBS, Temple, Northern Illinois, to name a few. He's coached in the Missouri Valley, Western Illinois, Southern Illinois. He's been there as well. I visited with Steve after he was announced he had the job about taking on this position group, what really excited him about it, and what lessons he's learned from his past stops that he wants to apply here in Fargo. Here's a sample of our interview.
Well, it's a good question. I've worked with Coach Entz. I've worked with Randy Hedberg for over 10 years, and then I played with Nick Gazer and Dan Larson. So those relationships, some of those are 20 years. And so there's been maybe talks of it in the past, and nothing that really came to be, but just the timing of it worked, and that was a big piece of it as well.
You're going to have to save the stories about Gazer and Larson for me when we get to the fall, because I can't wait to hear about their playing days. I have experience at the FBS level and the FCS level. How does that translate? How does that help for what you've seen in, I call it big boy football, that can help at this level?
Well, just various experiences. It just helps you and just shapes you. And NDSU has been operating in a FBS manner for quite a while. And you look at just the length of the season. It's like a bowl game. Guys aren't able to go home as much as they would like. So some of that stuff, I see that, and I'm excited about that opportunity to compete and to carry on the traditions. So I'm just excited just to be here, and get to work, get to know these guys.
You've coached in the Valley for a while at a couple different stops. What is there not a prototypical Missouri Valley wide receiver, but what makes a really good receiver for this football league?
That's a good question. I think it's hard to put words to it, but you've got to be a competitor, and first and foremost, the best ones that I've seen. When I was at Western Illinois, Lance Lenore was a tough receiver. I wasn't coaching him personally, but I saw how he carried himself and know what it takes to be a good receiver in this league.
To see now have North Dakota State always be assumed with running the football, playing great defense. Well, they've got a guy that was drafted last year in the second round that played wide receiver. How much more attractive does it make a position like this for a guy like yourself?
Well, that definitely puts eyes on the program and the receiver room, most definitely. Respect what Coach Pauly has done in advancing the room, and it's just a great program all around. And you see all the guys that are in the league and had opportunities after leaving NDSU. So that's the receiver room. Why shouldn't they have that?
I know you're working on the other side of the ball, but was there anything that stood out, I guess, when seeing this job open about competing against NDSU, knowing the talent they have coming back, said this is a really, really appealing job?
I really didn't get into the roster a whole lot. It was just more the connections, and that was the main appeal. And knowing the people here, and the success that's been here, from that standpoint, it's a pretty easy decision.
What are you most excited about to just get? I know you're just probably going a million miles an hour. What are you really excited about here to just launch into and get started over the first few days?
Just earning the guys' trust. And I talked to them this morning and just give me an opportunity to coach you, and I appreciate that. And I want to be able to challenge them, but I got to get to know them. So just some one-on-one meetings and getting to know them a little bit better. That's my main focus here this week. So
describe coming from Grand Forks to Fargo. I'm sure there's going to be some. You probably heard it as well. Like, all right, going from North Dakota to North Dakota State. Have you heard any, not blowback, which is like, all right, this is going to, you've been on each set and you're going to be on each side of this rivalry now.
When I was there, just all I had was respect for NDSU, and there's nothing different now that I've left there. Just respect, mixed emotions, and I'll leave it at that.
This part of the country is known obviously for its linemen, running backs, linebackers. Have you noticed, is there a prototypical Midwestern wide receiver in your time in either recruiting, playing, coaching in this area?
I don't. That's a great thing about the position. You can have a guy that's great, that's 5'8".
Yeah.
You can have a guy that's 6'6", and is great. So I think part of it is what what's inside, and that willing to compete and being able to just be mentally tough when the ball is coming their way to go and get it.
My last question, just now, between now and spring ball, these next 6 weeks, what are you, outside of getting to know the guys, what is the biggest challenge you have in front of you over the next month and a half?
Well, I got to learn the system, and so got to learn the system and just get comfortable with it enough that I'm coaching it, and the guys understand that I know this and trust me to get them in the right spots.
There's our interview with Steve Crutchley, and impressive guy that will have some interesting decisions and players to get out there on the field for 2023. With spring ball a month away, about 6 weeks away from actually getting started up at NDSU, and with an entire wide receiver core that is back, with the departures of DJ Hart and Phoenix Sproles happening during the season, everyone else is on board. Zach Mathis is on for a 6th season. Jake Lippy's back. Braylon Henderson is back. Raja Nelson returns. Eli Green is back in the fold. Chris Harris is a young man that the Bison were high on that didn't see the field in 2022. Obviously, the 2 red shirts in Carson Hegerly from West Fargo, Makai Collins from Mankato, that are highly touted that could get in. Bryce Lance, another guy that is still looking for his first collegiate reception. Those are all important cogs here for a group that is still looking for the home run hitter. It was an off-season topic as soon as Christian Watson played his final game in Frisco in January of 2022, was that who is going to be that guy? And I'm not saying to be what Christian was, but because that's a once-in-a-generation kind of player at NDSU in my mind. That's not going to come this way again for a long time, in my opinion. But to have a guy to stretch the field, because all those guys, Mathis, Henderson, Lippy, Nelson, Eli Green, they're the same guy. They're not take the top off, going to go long, and let's air it out. DJ had some hints of that, but there wasn't anything to that. That's on Crutchley now to see. Is there a guy here? Everything I've heard on Hegerly and Collins is they're trending in this direction. Can they do that when it matters? That's what we're going to find out here over the next 5 to 6 months. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour 1. Dave Richman, we got to be on time. He'll start hour 2 with us as we roll on a snow and chilly Wednesday. Hot Mike returns after this on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Again, that shot probably doesn't really illustrate how it's not great outside. The wind is, I've been told from our crack meteorology team, is going to die down as the day goes on, which will be great. And hopefully we can get the roads opened up here and get people going where they need to go. I understand with school being either canceled or e-learning days from around the region, it certainly lessens down the amount of people that are on the roads here today, but let's hope, fingers crossed, that's kind of the last bad thing we have come through here weather-wise. But I think I know better than that as I sit here on the 15th of February. We probably still got 1 or 2 more good ones left in us here before things are finally done. Because there's no way we're going to start the spring sports season on time, right? That's just a lost deal there. Mentioned last night that the Wolves and the Wild were both off and looking to see around what happened. The Pelicans play tonight with the Lakers. Right now, the Wolves still stand in 8th spot, now tied with the Pelicans for 7th. The Pelicans are 30-28, the Wolves 31-29 as we sit here on this Wednesday morning. Then Golden State and the Jazz. The Warriors, by the way, lost last night to the Clippers. The Warriors maybe just aren't better than what we think they are. Maybe they're just a 500 team and are going to hang around much like the Wolves for the play-in tournament. I don't know, but you would think one of these teams would turn it on. Like the Suns, when they get Kevin Durant, likely are going to go take off here. But
Who can figure it out? By the way, the Wolves play tomorrow night against the Wizards. In case you're wondering, Washington is in 10th place in the Eastern Conference, so they currently hold the final spot for the play-in tournament. So that's a game the Wolves got to win tomorrow night. We'll break. We come back. We'll start hour 2 of our show. North Dakota State men's basketball coach David Richman will join us. Got Jory coming tomorrow as the Bison men get set for their last road trip of the season in 2 biggies, Kansas City and Oral Roberts. We'll preview that. We start hour 2 of Hot Mic right after this.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
But some of the angles, like that your camera is like I'm seeing a lot of receding stuff here, Dom. So what do they say? The sun shines on a dog's behind once in a while.
Exactly. Boom.
Well, let's just maybe continue the train here. Like, I need to know, are we doing this, Dom, like at 9 or 10:06 or 10 o'clock? Because my Zoom that I get the link says
here
10
we
o'clock,
go. Yes.
and at 10:02, I still am waiting for the host. And I want you to know, Dom, you're the host. Come on, Dom, you can do this. We're here with you. I mean, just exactly like that.
We played defense in that first half like Dom transitions to you after the game. It's way too long, way too lazy. I think just like Dom's outfit, they're not always pretty. Sometimes they're really ugly.
Look at that. We've got a whole montage of the best of David Richman here over our last visits and our basketball broadcasts, as he's good enough to join us here on a Wednesday. I have people asking me, what did you do to Dave? Did you piss him off or something? Like, what was he taking shots at you for? I'm like, well, no, that's our relationship, man. So
I got it right away to start.
Okay.
Every morning, Matt Larson is in my office saying, "Quit picking on Dom because if you don't stop picking on, we're going to lose this relationship with WDAY and the InForum, and we need this partnership."
Yeah.
But then I also have just an email stack full of, "Hey, the Dom jokes are killing it, man. You got to go with it. Keep running." And I'm going to come clean, Dom. Like, some of these people are your employees, employers. They're the ones that like it more than anything. So the real question is what are you doing to them to warrant this like excitement about it?
I think you know how much of a pain in the butt I am to work with. So that's no surprise at all that those are coming out of the word work there on that one. Not one bit. I know you're a busy man, but I flipped on. I watched the end of the Creighton-Providence game last night. That's just a good basketball game. I was interested, obviously, because I'm interested in what Shireman's doing with Creighton these days. But I don't know if people would associate that, Dave, with high-level basketball. It certainly is. And it was a treat to watch last night. It was a fun game.
Yeah, I've created monsters at my own house, Dom, too, where now the girls are flipping games on and things like that. And, I work for Greg McDermott. Casey Matthews worked for us, too. You're 100% right. That was a high-level game and a high-level coach game, too. Two guys that I've talked to Casey about it. Those guys got a great relationship. And, two guys just X's and O's back and forth. I love the Nemhart kid.
Yeah.
The Hopkins kid from Providence when Creighton's trying to go into Kalbrenner and Hopkins is just sticking them with that physicality and can make plays. That you're starting to see it. It's February. Everybody talks about March is a louder month where everything is capitalized on conference tournaments and obviously the NCAA tournament. But true purists, if you're watching the game right now, there's a lot of, you can see the emotion in the coaches. There's probably a few more technicals. I talked to officials where they're a little tired this time of year, and it's that grind, it's that dog days. But there's a big time positioning going on for NCAA tournament positioning and seeds and those things, and you start to get that feel a little bit in some of these games. And I definitely think that was one of them. Last night.
I'm interested and I know you're in your own submarine here, just to what you either have heard or gathered about how Shireman has made the transition from SDSU to Creighton. I mean, he had a good stat line. It's not like he was doing last year where it was near triple-double some nights, but, I mean, it looks like he's been a solid add for a team that was already loaded going in.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different perspectives to look at that, right? I mean, when and I don't know exactly the question that you're asking me, or and I'll relate this to Grant too, but at this point, yeah, certainly the social media buzz and all that went viral with Grant created it. But when it's coming down to guys like Baylor Shireman and Grant Nelson and some of these things, what's going to materialize, Grant, is the workouts, or excuse me, Dom, is the workouts.
Yep.
Is these guys are on the radars of a bunch of NBA teams and scouts and agents and all this. After the season, they'll go with NCAA certified agents and they'll direct them towards some workouts. And then that'll determine then everything. But it's interesting. It's crazy. I was talking to one agent or scout. Like, think about it from this perspective, Dom. Like, the true people that are making these decisions, like GMs or coaches, they're only going to watch these kids for about an hour.
Unbelievable.
Right? Now they'll have all the information gathered by their internal scouts and all this, but when it comes to it, say Baylor has a great workout or stacks a couple great workouts. Yeah, there's a bulk of this work, but so much goes into it. So it's an interesting racket.
It's
that's
crazy.
for sure.
It really is. I know I was following during the game on Saturday. I'm looking at Grant's and I'm keeping book here and I'm looking at stats. I'm like, boy, we're getting to special territory here of where he got to double figures in points. He already had double figures in rebounds, and he's got 8 assists. And I look at Greg Steeman and I go, the game's in hand. I'm like, can we put Nelson back in the game to just pass the ball to get a couple of assists? But I know I asked you this after. I mean, you look at a 36-point outing, which is awfully impressive. I look what he did Saturday. To me, that's almost more impressive because of how dominant he was in the game Saturday.
You're going to get no argument. You aren't, and I think it's easy to see, like when he drops 36 or whatever he has, at Western Illinois, at home against UND. I think that big number glares at you. It sticks out, and you gravitate to that. But to your point, when you look across the whole stat line and you see that it's really remarkable, and it's remarkable for somebody that is doing it in a lot of ways. At 6'11", and I go back to his. The first assist of the game that he had, where he gets a rebound, he dribbles it down the floor on the right slot and hits to Javis over in the left corner. And that seems like the interesting part, the crazy part is it seems so benign, right? I mean, it's just like that was just. But all right, now you got somebody that's 6'11", 235 pounds, not only dribbling it up but making that decision. That just doesn't happen all the time.
We knew Bowden Scunberg coming into North Dakota State for his offensive prowess, Dave, seeing what he did at Jamestown High School, his ability to fill it up. And it's ironic that he got on the floor, I think, because of his defensive tenacity of what he learned over the last couple of years. And then we see a game on Saturday where I remember him in high school. He scores 30 points for you, and you needed all 30 on Saturday. But it's just an interesting way of how his career arc has come. I don't know if it's full circle, but it's pretty close now.
Yeah, and you don't go on the road and scout high school kids and go, man, that's a really good defender. Like, we're gonna, I mean, that's just, hey, it's just the reality of it, right? But you've always known Bowden's fierce competitive mentality, and has there been some bumps in the road, and is he taking some bad shots, especially early in his career, to, because that's kind of maybe what he needed to do when he was at Jamestown High School, but. To his credit, he locked in for the last couple of years and made a really a mark on our program, a name for himself of being that defender. And my challenge to Bowden every day is still, at the end of the day, that's who you've got to be to set the tone, the edge for who we are. Yet you're starting to see some pretty efficient offensive games from him as well. And in case in point, on Saturday, what I thought we needed that, and Bowden at times senses that, and I think that's a big part of it. We needed it from a standpoint of, okay, maybe the opponent's taken away Grant and Morgan, maybe some other guys. Just we have some younger guys that after a tough long week of practice games, and it just maybe didn't have the juice and the pop, in particular in the first half. Bowden senses those things, and it's certainly a fine line with everything. But just really, really proud of that guy. I mean, that young man. I mean, he just. Even yesterday, we got practice, and the ball's bouncing, and I'm up in my office right now where I am. And I look down to practice. I don't even need to look down, right? I mean, I know There's some things that at 6'11", Grant Nelson just has some God-given talent that maybe Bowden Scumberg, doesn't have, but Bowden maximizes everything he's got based on his work ethic, his mentality, his spirit and all those things.
You mentioned a couple times last week about how tough you went for practice on Tuesday. I think you called it the hardest practice of the year. Did that, obviously it bore itself out. You got 2 much-needed wins. Can you go back to that well again? Or, are you worried about running out of gas, especially going on the road this week? You're worried about running out of gas when you need it on Saturday night.
I'm crazy. I'll go back to that well if we need to, Dom, but I certainly don't want to.
Yeah.
And, again, we have to make sure that we are dotting I's and crossing T's. And you're seeing that, you go back to that Creighton Providence game last night. There's a bunch of I was watching Michigan and Wisconsin last night, and I think they talked about Michigan in the last 5 games and how many just a possession here, possession there. And there's a foundation laid in everything you do. So we probably can't go to that well too many times, or we're going to have Saturday performances like we did. And that's not to take anything away from Denver, but yet here's my thing with everything, Dom. When we talk transfer portal, when we talk NIL, is like if we, everybody talks about, oh, you need to continue to recruit your own kids and do all those things. Yeah. Like, we love our guys and we love them up. We take care of them, but the minute I get, soft and we start friending our guys and we stop coaching them, holding them accountable, getting better, like to say it's going to happen one way or the other, right? I mean, you get soft, you coddle and you lose. You you hold them to accountability standards and they don't do the things and you run them, you lose, right? And so it's certainly a fine balance, but that's my charge as a head coach. And thankfully our guys responded. We were able to find a way. Thus far this week, we haven't had one of those practices. We hopefully today, we check boxes and move forward, but it's all part of it. There's lessons to be learned. This stuff is really hard, Dom.
That's why you get paid the big bucks, man. That's right. That's why you get
the real buck. Just a notch below what you're getting paid.
But you're exactly right. Like especially in this day and age, and I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but if you quote unquote run them too hard, then you risk not losing them, but say, well, I don't know, I don't want to do this, and especially in an age now where you can go, and I know you and I disagree with this, but you can go and leave and don't have to worry about sitting out. I mean, I feel for you, man, because I don't know how to walk that fine line. I really don't.
I go back to a conversation that I had with Ben Jacobson last summer, last spring, and it's just, hey, Dave, be careful early on here in this, transformational times of just completely doing a 180 from what you've done, because it's been working. It's the same thing for him. To me, it all goes back into the message, that we are so transparent in recruiting process. And a lot, when we get somebody to come, we get those young men and their families because they want to be held accountable. They want to develop. They want to grow as young men, as students, and as basketball players. So it's not like we're catching them off guard, but it is a fine line, but it's not. And you're exactly right, and I hear it. But the minute I stop parenting my own 4 daughters, the minute I stop really coaching our guys for whether it be an hour and 15 minutes a day or 2 hours at some at different points, is the minute that I crumble. It's the minute that I think, not to go on, like you said, a whole different tangent, but like the minute, we lose society, right? I mean, like this is hard. What your job and as a parent and all this, it's hard. My job and as a parent and all this, it's hard. But like, you got to tackle it, because anything you're going to do in life is hard.
No doubt. Anything worthwhile is hard, is always what I was told. So that's I know that. Exactly. So are you looking at the standings? Is Sash telling you what's up? I mean, we're 2 weeks to go. We know exactly what you have left. You have 2 games here on the road, 2 biggies at home, and trying to figure out, okay, how if we go 3-1, we're in a good spot. 4-0, obviously is it time now to start figuring that out? Are you looking at that,
Do I peak? Yes. Do I know where we're at? Yes. Does any of that matter? No. I mean, again, it's the North Dakota State way, whether you're talking basketball, football, or whatever. It is the opportunity today to get better. And if if we start saying that we need to, all we talk about is going 3-4 or 4-4 or whatever down the stretch, like we're not gonna make those things happen because we're focused on the wrong things. And what matters is the moment, Dom, and all that. Like I've again, here I go on my tangent. And I've had opportunities to talk to some, high school kids age, and there's two main things that are focusing, kids in particular this age. It's uncertainty and comparison, right? It's uncertainty. Like we went through a pandemic. We're waiting for something to happen, negative to happen. Like, right. We're uncertain. Where are we going to be seated in the conference tournament? The comparison is social media. Like what's somebody else doing? All these things, blah, 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 blah. Right. How about like we stick our head right here in the moment and control the things that we can control? And today that is getting better, preparing for Kansas City. I do know this. We'll like ourselves and our seedings better if we're able to take care of business 7 p.m. tomorrow night.
Kansas City has been a real thorn on the side. Outside of they have good players. I know they play hard. Is there one or a couple of attributes about them that's been a real pain the last 2 years?
Yeah, I've talked to Billy Donnellan a couple times, just, hey, give me a pulse of what you see when you play North Dakota State. And, I really respect, his basketball IQ and some things like that. And, that there are some times, I know Dexter asked me afterwards on the radio, like sometimes there is a matchup thing. Yeah. And, they are a bit bigger physical team. And they're, they remind me in a sense, like when you go with Mitchell and Allen, those are bigger guards, kind of like we've had in the last couple of years. And, what you maybe lack with some things, you gain in some other areas. And, it's going to be a challenge for us. And we've got to do a better job of competing on the glass. And we got our tails kicked with free throw box outs last time, especially in some crucial situations. They made some shots, something that they maybe not normally do to the extent that they normally do against us last time. Go back and watch that game. That's not what got us beat. It's little things. Again, it's not being engaged on the defensive glass. It's not finishing possessions and things that we can control.
I know you were beat up last week. Any update on Lance Waddles? Will he be available for you this weekend?
Yeah, we were able to. Lance worked out on Monday. He had a full contact practice yesterday. So that's been encouraging to see, just to have another body, and especially as you go on the road and there's some different situational things. And he's a talented young man. He's growing a lot. He's starting to, he just had a really good day shooting the basketball on Monday. And I do think as we wind down the stretch of just different moments with different guys, maybe it's a stretch here or there that can put you over the hump.
I remember one road trip. This is when Centenary was still in the league, where you had an ice storm when you're trying to get from Shreveport to Tulsa. Is there any other good ones that you remember of going to? Obviously, that 2009 one was a fun one because you won down there, and last year was an unreal finish down there as well.
I don't know if I don't have a story from some, sometime. I remember, gosh, where were we? Might have been along those same lines, and it was when I was assistant with Saul, and he takes off, and I got the team. He takes off recruiting, goes one way, and I got the team, and we're back, and just trying to scrounge up meals and doing this. It sounds like today there's like a window we're going to be able to fly out around 5, which is normal. But then I looked at the Kansas City weather just for fun, and they're expecting a little weather system later on tonight. So it is what it is. Yeah. Like we said, it's hard, but it's not like we're in a unique situation where it's just hard to us.
It's summer league travel, man. It's nothing in the Midwest in the middle of the winter. What else do you expect, right?
That Dom, the Dom Izzo big WDAY charter thing that we're going to get next year, part of the contract. That's going to be a really nice upgrade too.
If I could sit next to you, I mean, you probably would strangle me after probably 5 minutes. But
no, not at all. I would gladly take a hot mic quarter zip.
Yeah, right. Well, what? All right.
Yeah.
We'll make that work. We can make that happen. Great to see you, man. Safe travels. Good luck tomorrow night. Okay.
Dom, in all seriousness, appreciate you and everybody there at WDAY and all the time and effort. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, man. David Richman, North Dakota State men's basketball coach. The Bison on the road this week. They go to Kansas City. As you mentioned, you heard Dave say they leave later tonight. And a matchup with the Roos trying to end a 3-game losing skid to Kansas City. Boy, you get that one. He's not going to say it, but you get that one, then you just let whatever happens Saturday night with Oral Roberts. Because as we sit here with the league standings, ORU's got a share of the league championship already.
They are 14-0 and a 4-game lead on South Dakota State. If they win, if Oral Roberts beats UND Thursday night, the Golden Eagles have the league wrapped up in the automatic bid to the NIT, which they do not want. You see the Bison now in third after all the chaos that happened last weekend, with Western Illinois and St. Thomas each at 8-7. There's Kansas City sitting there at 7-7, and South Dakota at 6-8. Those are the 6. 2 through I'm going to even probably take South Dakota State out of the mix because I think the Jacks have 2 probably locked up. 3 through 6 is a nightmare. Look at what everybody has left here. Let's look at St. Thomas first. So they play, this is their bye week. So they have Western Illinois coming up. Then the Tommies will come to Fargo and Grand Forks. Same, obviously, with the Leathernecks. But look at what Kansas City has left. Kansas City still has to play the Bison coming up tomorrow night. UND, and UND I know is playing better. UND's won 3 in a row. I think that'll be a closer game. Then they got to go to Brookings and go to Vermilion. They're going to take some losses. Kansas City can easily go 1-3. That's what I'm saying. If the Bison are able to get tomorrow night, and you know what's probably going to happen Saturday, that sets you up for 2 games at home against 2 teams that have not been good on the road. We talked about this yesterday. On the road right now, St. Thomas is 2-5 in conference play. Western is 2-4 away from home. If you're that good, you win those games. It's really going to be fun to follow that one coming up tomorrow night from Kansas City. We're due for a break. We'll take one now, get caught up on a couple other things here as we roll on. Jeff Welsh, Grand Forks Central wrestling coach, coming up. We come back here on a busy Wednesday morning on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. That the North Dakota Department of Transportation tweets out that Interstate 94 now fully open across North Dakota. That's good to hear. I-29 still closed all the way from South Dakota to Canada. So at least one way, east-west is good to go, but north-south still clogged with the open areas there. That's probably not going to change until the wind dies down, which hopefully it will. Evidently, it's going to as the day goes on, so that's good to know. A couple scheduling updates here, which is good to know. For tomorrow, we'll be joined by Jamestown sensation Mason Walters will join us as he's about to wrap up a unreal career at the University of Jamestown. His Jimmies are set to begin the postseason next week. Has a chance to, and he's going to be a 4-time All-American. He's already the leading scorer in school history. He's led his team to the Elite Eight. They did that a couple years ago. And he's got another year of eligibility. And from what I have been told, is going to explore that at potentially the highest levels. It's almost like he's been a hidden gem. And I say this, and we've had Mason on the show sporadically over the last couple of years, that Skunberg, who is a great player in his own right, took away, I think, what Walters was in high school, which Mason was a dominant player. He was Mr. Basketball the year that Jamestown won the state championship in 2019, an unbeaten season. He stays home and dominates almost right out of the gate as a true freshman at UJ. 21, as I mentioned, they make it to the Elite Eight. They had another great run last year, and they're poised to do something special again in 2023. And you can say, well, he's dominating NAI ball in the GPAC. Well, he's putting up stats that are getting other people's attention. I'm not sure if he's going to divulge a whole lot about that tomorrow. We'll ask him. But it's certainly worth keeping an eye on, that he's not done playing basketball one way or the other, whether it's in college, whether it's professionally, that his size and his ability to take over a game, it is not done after whenever the Jimmy's basketball season wraps up. So he's coming up. He'll be on the show tomorrow at 10:35. I just got this sent to me as well. The Texas Rangers official tweet out. This almost makes me cry a little bit, even though we're moving on. It says DeGrom clocking in. A shot of Jacob DeGrom walking in to the Rangers spring training facility. I miss Big Jake pitching for the Mets, but what are you going to do? You can't pay everybody. DeGrom has barely been able to pitch here over the last couple of years, so he's moving on, pitching for the Texas Rangers this year for a team that still finished 28 games under 500 or whatever they were. I don't know if they're going to be any good in 2023, but they got Jake pitching for them this coming year. So we'll see. It's fun to see, though, the different photos and videos coming out of Florida or Arizona as teams are arriving, players arriving, and official practices getting underway. As they mentioned for the Twins, they officially report tomorrow to pitchers and catchers. The rest of the team comes early next week. And then I think it's a week from now, 10 days from now, you got your first actual games going on, both in Florida and Arizona. And for you baseball rubes out there, the actual spring training will continue. There'll be games happening, but will stop. They won't actually stop, but they'll be going around. The World Baseball Classic will be happening, which that might be one of the most popular tournaments that nobody's heard of. That's an oxymoron in its own right, but and it's come around every 5 or 6 years. It happens right in the middle of March, which is when obviously March Madness is happening, and we've got the best players of the world. Most of them actually do play in this. Their teams, for the most part, let them out. Correa's not participating because his second child is due to be born here in the next couple of weeks. But most everybody else will be suiting up. And it's interesting also when the USA isn't the best in a particular sport, which they're very good in this, but the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Japan are just phenomenal. That part, I will say, I will admit, is fun to watch. Now, it's hidden away on Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2. I'm not sure what kind of ratings they're going to get, but might be something we'll keep an eye on when we get to next month, just because it doesn't happen all that often. I think the last time they had it was 5 years ago. I think 2018 was the last time they'd done it, so we'll see. We're due for a break. When we come back, we'll get you ready for the biggest wrestling party the state of North Dakota has outside of USA Nationals. It's the state wrestling tournament. It begins tomorrow. Central head coach Jeff Welsh will preview it when we come back on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Welcome back, everybody, on a busy Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic, WDAY Extra, InForum.com. This time tomorrow, it will be underway. The first of the North Dakota Winter Sports State Championships as the state wrestling tournament will get underway. The first of 3 days at the Fargo Dome with the individual tournament beginning at 10 a.m. They'll wrestle probably till about 6 o'clock. To get through up to the semifinals, and then Friday you'll have the semis and the championships, and then Saturday is the dual portion, which is super popular. All alongside, by the way, the girls wrestling will also happen for the second year of that being a sanctioned event by the North Dakota High School Activity Association. My pleasure to bring back. We've had them on 4 years running to get us ready for the state wrestling tournament. It's good to see Grand Forks Central head wrestling coach Jeff Welsh back with us here on a Wednesday. Is this like Christmas Eve to you for what's to come tomorrow?
It's pretty exciting. Yeah. You can feel the energy in the wrestling room. I have to leave about halfway through practice to get down to the Fargo Dome for the coaches meeting tonight. And a lot of excitement when you enter that dome and see all the other coaches. And it is almost like Christmas Eve. Yes.
You've had a heck of a year up at Grand Forks Central. You guys, we mentioned it off air, made it into the dual portion of this. How much does that add some added juice to this, Jeff, that not only you're bringing a ton of wrestlers, your team is going to compete on Saturday in this?
Yeah. Since they went to the new format where duels are separate on Saturday, the last couple of years we didn't make the dual tournament. And so the guys went home on Friday and kind of missed seeing the duels. I was back there watching myself, but being we're in the dual tournament and get to spend a full 3 days there, we're really excited.
Describe your performance Saturday at EDC. You mentioned you're sending 16 guys to state. How surprised, impressed, a little bit of both, or was this what you expected out of your performance for your team?
A little bit. I think out of our 17 entrants, I had us pegged at about 12, to be honest, just because we have some really young guys in the lighter weights. And boy, we had kids who just stepped up left and right and wrestled really well. And we finished in 5th place behind, the other 4 strong teams, West Fargo and Cheyenne and Davies and Valley City. There's a lot of parity and a lot of strength in the EDC this year. Davies had a really good tournament and kind of surprised Cheyenne, I think.
Now, as you get set for, you mentioned this, the last practice today, you got to cut out early, but this is it. Is there, what are you going, are the guys just like, you know what, finally it's over. We got state. What are the emotions like for the last practice today?
Hoping, we do a little bit lighter practice and still hoping nobody suddenly gets an injury the night before state. A little anxiety, making sure guys are on weight.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning is one of my I stay down overnight. And I'm on the phone at 5 a.m. making sure guys are there, getting on the bus, and my assistant coaches are checking their weight. And when that bus pulls into the Fargo Dome, I'm waiting for them and just hoping everybody's on weight, which I think we'll be all right this year. We don't have anybody really pulling a lot of weight.
How nerve-wracking is that? I mean, it's completely out of your control, much like everything is in coaching, but that really is out of your control.
It is. If I had some magic wand where we could raise some money and stay in Fargo tonight, I would, because it's a lot easier when you're at a tournament and your guys are in the hotel with a scale versus being at home with a refrigerator. So
for first-time guys, and I'm sure you've got a couple that are going to compete tomorrow, describe for how you will address them when they walk in tomorrow morning and see all of that. And I know the rumble on the red is one thing, but this is different. How do you address that about seeing what they're going to see tomorrow morning when they come into the Dome?
Yeah, we try to talk to them and tell them just to focus on the mat they're wrestling in and let them know that after the first couple seconds after the whistle, they'll get that tunnel vision and it won't seem like such a big deal. They have the warm-up mats in the team camp area. We always try to warm up in the main arena so the kids get a feel for it and before they actually wrestle their matches.
I always hear, by the way, it's hot in there for football. Is it hot in there for wrestling too?
No, I haven't noticed that. And I'm guessing after today it might cool off a little bit, but we're hoping the interstate opens today so I can make it down there tonight.
I got a feeling probably by later this afternoon, hopefully you'll be okay on that. So when you have different guys wrestling at the same time, how do you position yourself? I'm sure you're trying to get there for every match, but you mentioned you got 16 guys. How are you going to do that throughout the next couple days?
Yeah, so we'll have 6 coaches there, and there's certain guys that certain coaches work with throughout the season. So we always want to make sure that they're in their corner. I'm sort of the old guy directing traffic, so sometimes I put the younger coaches in the chairs and just stand behind and take a few pictures and then yell when appropriate.
I would be honest with you. Your Twitter account is one of the best for wrestling in the state. Tell me, is that a organic thing? You say, you know what, to try and get more attention on the sport? Was that something you consciously decided to do?
I got to give credit my lead assistant coach. I do Facebook. I do a Facebook page for our alumni, and then we kind of have a Facebook, Instagram page for current events. And Garrett Litzinger, my lead assistant, he started the Twitter page probably 6-7 years ago, and he does a great job updating and retweeting and all that stuff. So he does a really nice job with that.
How's the response been on that, Jeff? Have you gotten more back, just people that didn't know about it because now it's out there on social media?
Yeah, social media definitely helps. I got, as soon as I tweeted last night and put on Facebook that I was going to be on with you, I got a few text messages from people and, not only in the area, but around the country. So.
Well, that's good to hear. We got more people watching today. I appreciate that.
Right.
Tell me about we were talking off air. The format change of this is different. The high school association changed this up where the individual tournament used to be 3 days, culminating on Saturday. Now it's just 2 with the dual tournament on Saturday. How do you feel that went? And now, since you're even more of a part of it this year with Grand Forks Central, how do you feel that will go?
Yeah, in the past, I always was in favor of having the duels on Thursday and Friday alongside the individuals Thursday through Saturday. But having watched it the last couple of years, it got first instituted due to COVID.
Right.
And then we stuck with it. I get it because the guys can get, even though you really want to do well in the duels and win a dual championship, the individual tournament is really important. And we even had a guy a few years ago who got injured in our first duel, and it affected him throughout the tournament. So I can see putting the duels at the end. It also allows, guys to maybe go up a weight class on Saturday versus where they wrestled on Thursday and Friday. So there's a little strategy that make the duels interesting. So I'm coming around to the duels being on Saturday. It's not fun when you're not in them on Saturday, but especially this year when we're in them, I'm really coming around to it.
You're matching up with Williston. What do you know about them for your match on Saturday morning?
They are tough, especially as a dual team. We wrestled them in the Metro duels back in January in Fargo, and they took it to us. We were missing about 4 or 5 starters at that time. We had a real run of injuries at one point, but even with a full squad, we're going to have our hands full. I believe they're undefeated in duels, including against Bismarck this year. And they just have a guy who's tough at every weight and they don't give up many pins. So we will have our hands full, but we'll be ready.
Jeff Welsh joining us, Grand Forks Central head coach, wrestling coach. The first time I had you on was, now 4 years ago, when you're getting ready for the girls tournament that was going to happen after the state tournament at Davies. And now here we are, the second year of sanctioned girls wrestling in the state. And we have video from last year, Jeff, and just seeing the reaction from the fans to the girls, I'm like, this has been huge. Has it gotten even bigger than you thought now in year 2?
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, there was 400 girls, I think, in track wrestling.
Wow.
And I think at each of the region tournaments last weekend, something like 130 or 140 girls at each tournament. And Red River and Grand Forks hosted the East Region Girls Tournament last Friday, and the stands were packed.
That's awesome.
It was really great. And I should put a plug in. Our Grand Forks Night Riders team also qualified for the state duels. They're the 4 seed out of the East. So, and my old friend and coaching colleague, Matt Berglund, is one of their 2 coaches.
To see it and you and I talked about this, I think you told me that this has a chance. Has this even exceeded your expectations, though, now just 2 years into this, to see where the level of participation is at?
Yeah, even going back 4 years, our top Grand Forks wrestler and maybe the top wrestler in the state, Alyssa Johnson, she was a student of mine in 8th grade and played football for me in 8th grade. And I told her it was going to grow. And it was a little slower 9th grade year. I think we had 4 girls out at Central, and then we had COVID and everything. And but boy, once it got sanctioned, and that's what everybody said, once it was sanctioned, it would take off, because that's what's happened in every state where it's been sanctioned. So it's still amazing to watch.
It is. It's intense, and it's just fun. It's just it's one that I think when people get a chance to see it, I think they'll come back to it, which is really interesting. Hey, go ahead, man.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, because of the growth of the girls, we've gone from 8 mats at state to most of the preliminary rounds are now 12 mats, so that the girls have 4 mats, and then Class B boys and Class A boys each have 4 mats.
So when you go up tomorrow, for fans that maybe want to go, literally you'll go down and every single mat will have something going on. That to me is about as good as it gets.
Yes, it's going to be tremendous.
Before I let you go, we did the Bison match against Oklahoma on Friday, Jeff, and they got the big one with South Dakota State. To see a guy like Jared Franick, who I know you saw up close at West Fargo, to now he's number 2 in the country in his weight class. For people that don't follow the sport closely, how big a deal is this?
That is amazing, because there are so many high school wrestlers across the country, and to be at an elite level at Division I. And then I think it's really cool that he's able to do it at NDSU, and NDSU's having an amazing season. But I'm really excited because, I was involved in youth wrestling for a long time too, running our Gladiators Club. And so from the time he was a little kid, I saw him at tournaments. So just to see him come through, really amazing. We have several guys who have Jared Franick T-shirts on our team and wear them once in a while. So
that's awesome. That's pretty good stuff. It's great to catch up, bud. Safe travels eventually when you get down here. I look forward to catching up with you at the Dome over the next couple days, okay?
Thanks, Dom.
Good to see you, man. Jeff Welsh, Grand Forks Central head wrestling coach. The Knights are in the dual portion, which begins on Saturday. They'll take on Williston. The quarterfinals go in the morning, the semifinals in around noon, and the championship matches will be about 2 o'clock coming up, or 3 o'clock, on Saturday. The championship individual finals will begin at 3:30 on Friday at the Dome. I know for many people that watch our show, they have gone, but for some that have not gone, I totally encourage you to find a way to get up to the Dome over the next 3 days. It is one of my favorite events on the sports calendar, and it is electric. The championship matches alone, it's pretty good stuff. Looking forward to that coming up over the next few days. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on the show, get you ready for what's going on a slower Sports Wednesday. We'll do that when Hot Mike wraps right after this on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Fun show today. We're packed. Again, a couple of updates here just to pass along. I-94 is now open both east and west. I-29 remains closed. Last I checked on that. So, again, travel is still pretty treacherous outside of the city limits. So be careful on that for going anywhere. If you don't need to go anywhere, don't. Let everything take care of itself there, and then eventually the roads will open. The wind is going to die down, according to our Storm Tracker team. The news is coming up at the top of the hour, 11 o'clock. They'll have plenty of updates on all of that stuff coming up here in just a few minutes. So stay tuned for that right after Hot Mike wraps there. On the sports scheduling front, the Moorhead girls hockey game that was scheduled for tonight, the section title game against Roseau, that has been moved to tomorrow night in Thief River Falls, 7 o'clock at the Little Ralph up in Thief River. So that game has been postponed with, obviously, school being closed today. There's no way they're going to play that game. So that'll happen tomorrow. The winner moves on to the AA hockey tournament in St. Paul next week. So that's the one big scheduling change that is happening today. Everything else still on for what's going on. So just wanted to pass that on. We'll get to what to watch here in a second, but the Minnesota Wild are part of that, as the Wild will play Colorado tonight. And we were talking about the Wolves earlier. The Wild are in the same boat. They lost that shootout to Florida on Monday, and now they play the Avalanche tonight. And again, there's no wiggle room here. For those that don't follow the NHL or how the Stanley Cup playoffs work, the top three in your division make it. Colorado won, got a point, so now they have leapfrogged Minnesota tiebreaker-wise with 61 points. So if the playoffs were to start today, the Avalanche would be in as a part of the division. The Wild would be in as a wild card team, which means they'd be playing Dallas, and we just saw them play the Stars last week. How'd that go? Not well. So, again, points are at a premium here. And heck, goals are at a premium for the Wild, considering they scored 7 in their last 5 games. I think we added it up yesterday. So they need to start pouring it on. And that leads us into what to watch, which is the Wild game on national television tonight. Minnesota will take on Colorado, 8:30 tonight on TNT for that one. It's a showdown game. Wild got to get it against a good Colorado team. That's coming up tonight, 8:30 on TNT. I don't believe that is blacked out. I believe that's an exclusive on TNT for that one tonight on What to Watch. Also, we mentioned where the Wolves are. The Pelicans play tonight against the Lakers, 9 o'clock on ESPN. The Lakers are buried in the standings. But if you're a Wolves fan, I think you're rooting for the Lakers to win because the Pelicans are right ahead of you in the Western Conference standings. The Wolves play tomorrow night. That's tonight, 9 o'clock on ESPN. No idea if LeBron James will play. LeBron has not played since he became the all-time scoring leader in NBA history. He's missed the last couple of games, so we'll see if he plays tonight for the Lakers on ESPN. And a big one in soccer today. If you're stuck at home, got nothing to do, it's 1 and 2 in the Premier League this afternoon. Arsenal and Man City, 1:30 on USA. For you non-soccer rubes out there, I'll just tell you, this is a biggie. This is for the top of the table, as they would say in soccer. It should be a fun one. Arsenal and Manchester City, 1:30 today on USA. It'll be on in my office. I'm sure some will probably try to shut it off, but I'll enjoy that match. It's a good one in the Premier League between Arsenal and Man City. So that's what we got going on, What to Watch, led by the Wild game with the Avalanche. If we get anything close to what we got for our What to Watch selections yesterday, tonight, you're in for a heck of a sports night. Should be some good stuff there. Obviously, by the way, the Gopher game we're supposed to play at Michigan State, obviously postponed due to the terrible tragedy with the shooting that happened on campus there. So the Gophers game with Michigan State not happening tonight with the horrible outcome that happened Monday night in East Lansing. We got to go. Thanks to our guests today, to Drew Trafton, Steve Crutchley, Dave Richman, and Jeff Welsh. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at InForum.com. Stay safe. Stay warm out there, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Have a great Wednesday, everybody.